Welcome back to Riley's Collection. I'm Riley, and today we're doing a how to pose on the Marvel Legends Extremis Iron Man. Welcome back to another installment of How to Pose. The theme for today's video is
Accessory Swap.
So basically, the name of the game here is accessories. And no, not just the accessories that he comes with, but rather accessories from other figures that I have in my collection. So I have a bunch of different accessories here, and we're going to be trying out all of them with this figure. So the point here is that we're trying to use things that we already have in order to enhance the fun that we can have with our new figure. And guys, this new Iron Man figure is absolutely beautiful and I love it. I've been waiting for this guy for so long, it feels like now. So I cannot wait to get to posing this guy. But before we start, I just wanted to ask you all, what is your favorite Iron Man armor? Comment it down below. My favorite has to be the Mark III from Iron Man 1, but I want to know what you guys think. That said, let's get into it. So the first pose that we're gonna do here is pretty simple. It's honestly kind of just to show off this cool head swap that you can do. I have the partially unmasked head here from the Mark III Marvel Legends from the Infinity Saga wave. And my idea for this is that we're kind of gonna have Tony Stark working on like an armor design or something. So we're also gonna be bringing in this AI Iron Man as sort of an accessory here for this pose. So here he is with the Mark III head on, and I think it looks really good. The reds are a little bit different, so that's something that you're gonna have to be wary of, but I honestly don't think it's really that distracting. One thing to note is that this head goes on there very snugly. It is a very, very tight fit, so just be careful with that. I would definitely recommend heating the head up first before you pop it on. But essentially what we're gonna do here is we're gonna raise up his arms, holding his hands out like he's touching a hologram, kind of like he does in the movies. The legs you could just have straight like this. Bring this arm down a little bit just to add some variance. And we should be looking something kind of like that. And then if you bring in your hologram here, I have mine on a flight stand here to kind of give the illusion that it's, you know, a floating hologram. Now we have a pose that kind of looks like Iron Man is working on something, maybe making upgrades to his armor, and I really dig that. But I don't want to spend too much time on this pose because it's definitely the least exciting of the batch, but I did want to make sure I threw it in here for you guys so I could show off that head swap. And for anyone that wanted to kind of come up with something to have him doing in like their Armory display or something like that, this is for you guys. But with that said, let's move on to the next one. For this next pose, we're really going to be getting into some cool stuff here. The effects that I'm going to use here are going to be this lightning effect that I got from the Lost Galaxy Blue Ranger, I think it was, from the Hasbro Lightning Collection. And then we're also going to use these blue blast effects from miscellaneous Marvel Legends Iron Man. And I also have the smoke effects from the Marvel Legends Alex Ross Iron Man. So basically what I'm going for here is I want it to look like Iron Man has been like battle damaged or he got shot or something to that effect. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take our lightning effect here and we're gonna slip it onto our Iron Man. So we're just gonna put the arm through the holes and it will stretch, so it shouldn't be too hard to get it on there. If you have to, you can remove the hands. That might make it a little bit easier, but it should go on something like that. For the arms, we're gonna have this arm kind of out to the side a little bit, and then this arm is gonna be up and forward a little bit. We kind of want his limbs like sprawled out like he's trying to catch his balance. His head, we're gonna move up all the way, try not to pop that off. Nothing here has to be super specific, but we just kind of want it to look asymmetrical. And then the torso here, we're going to want to twist to the side a little bit here and move back because we want to not only make his body look more dynamic, but we also want to create a space in the back here for our flight stand to slip in. This leg we're going to want to move upward, so this little circle piece here rotates. We're going to have to rotate that up to get it out of the way. Move this leg forward like this, bend that in a little bit. This leg's going to be out this way. Again, we want it to look like he's trying to catch his balance. And now what we can do here with these blue effect pieces, right, is I have these smoke effects, okay? And what you're gonna wanna do here is kind of take this and kind of smush it into there until that peg pops out at the top. Take this whole piece right here and attach it to the bottom of the foot. And make sure you do that for both sides. And then the other blue effect pieces we can plug in to the hands. And we should look something like this. So here we have Iron Man in our second pose here, and it looks fantastic. Maybe he's fighting somebody and he got blasted in the back or something, and his armor is just short-circuiting or malfunctioning or something. And the fact that we have Iron Man's limbs kind of splayed out everywhere really gives the impression that he's trying to regain his balance, or like he just got knocked off kilter. And I also just wanted to show you quickly, like maybe you bring in another character, you could just kind of have him positioned in the back, and then it looks like, you know, War Machine's kind of blasting Iron Man. I know he wouldn't do that, but this is just kind of what I had on hand right now, but this could really work well for your figure photography. And I also wanted to mention here that the reason that we're using the blue blast effects instead of the yellow ones is, one, because I like the blue effects better, and two, if we use these yellow effects here, in terms of color, it's basically the same as this like short-circuiting or lightning effect here. And because of that, if we use the yellow blast effect, it doesn't pop nearly as much, and it doesn't give off the effect that we're going for as well. And in doing that, it might look like this is a function of the armor rather than a malfunction. And overall, adding the blue just adds a little bit more color to the overall composition here. And yeah, I just think it works much, much better than these yellow effects in this context. But with all that said, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this next pose for Iron Man is going to be very, very simple. The effects that I'm going to use are these blast off effects that I got with the deluxe War Machine. And then we're going to use the yellow blast effects and the smoke effects on top of them. So all we're really going to do here, right, is we're going to make him look all the way up without popping his head off. Wow, this is really easy to do. Move his arms out and then bend the elbows in, kind of like that. We could just have them like straight out, but I kind of prefer the bend because it kind of gives it a little bit more flair, and these joints are very tight, so be careful while you're maneuvering them. And another thing to be wary of is this shoulder piece, right? You can move it up a fair bit. I think it caps out probably like right about at 90 degrees, but I just remember like the first time I was playing around with this and like moving these things around, like both times I moved these shoulder pads in, I heard like a cracking sound and I thought I had broken something, but what I think happened was there was some glue down here helping to hold it on, and in moving it up this far, you kind of crack through that glue, but it's still held on by a bit of plastic there. However, you do just want to be careful that you don't move it too far up and rip this off. And the other thing is that when you move these shoulders up, because they're attached at the shoulder right here, when you move it back down, it's gonna be like this. So you're gonna have to push that back down. Maybe wouldn't leave it in a pose doing that for too long, because then it'll probably take longer for this to reform back to the way it was. But you could always just use some heat and push it back down there. I personally haven't even had to heat these up at all. It seems that whenever I move it up, whenever I move it back down, I can just kind of push it back down, maybe hold it there for a couple seconds, and it kind of just goes back to normal. But getting back on topic here, we're just gonna move them out kind of slightly, not too far out. And then the legs, we're actually just gonna keep completely straight out. You might wanna move the diaphragm up. And then we can take these repulsor effects and plug them onto the hands with the smoke effects coming off, right? And just be sure that the smoke effects are on the blast effect and not on the hinge of the hand. I've seen people put this, here I'll show you. I've seen people have this smoke effect above the wrist like this and then put the blast effect in. I guess you could do that, but it really doesn't make any sense at all. Like, why would the smoke be coming out of his wrist? That's not where the blast is coming from. So I would not recommend doing it that way. But you want to put the repulsor effects on both sides just like this, and then we can take our blast effects here for the boots, make sure they're connected at the base, and then just peg him on. It's going to be a little bit of a balancing act to get him to stand on there. You might have to adjust it a little bit so that he's not like leaning forward, but you should be able to get him to stand on there. And here is Iron Man in our flight pose here, our taking off, our blast off pose, and it just looks awesome. Now again, this is a pretty simple pose, but the effect parts put in a lot of work here to make it look really cool. And for a character like Iron Man, you're gonna want to be doing stuff like this that isn't necessarily too complex, but you're gonna want to have him in these flying poses and these blast off poses and things like that. And this is hands down one of the best looking Marvel Legends Iron Man to do it with. And here's this pose again, but just kind of from a straight on angle, just so that you guys can see that. And then if you wanted to as well, you could move the head forward and have him like that, maybe on your shelf or something, and that can also look really cool. This pose isn't necessarily about doing anything super dynamic or having him in any over-the-top fight scenes, but rather just showing off the figure and how beautiful it is on its own. For those of you who love to see like the full frontal of your figures on the shelf, this is a nice way to kind of spice it up rather than just having them stand there. But with that said, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so for the last pose we're gonna do here with our Iron Man today, we're gonna have him in another flight type of motion, but this time he's swooping down and blasting at an enemy or something to that effect. So the effects I have here are these blast effects from the Marvel Select Silver Centurion, and we're gonna go back to the blue Marvel Legends blast effects as well. So for this one, we're going to take his arm and move it forward like this. Obviously, we're going to want to move his head to follow suit so he can look where he's shooting at. This arm, we're going to move backwards just like this. Put his hand up like that. I usually like to have like a slight bend at the elbow as well. Moving on to the legs, we're going to take the left leg and make sure this little circle is out of the way. But move it forward just like this and then bend the knee all the way back and make sure the foot is as bent forward as it can go. And then the other leg is going to go straight back like this. Again, slight bend in the knee. Make sure this foot is lined up with this foot so the blast effects are having the same sort of trajectory. The torso joint here, we're going to take that and we're going to move that all the way up just like that. Then we're going to take our blast effects and plug them into the boots here. And if you are using these effects like I am, make sure the swoop, it's swooshing up this way and not kind of down like that. Because as you can see, that looks really bad. And if you just flip it around like that, it looks a lot better. And do this on both sides, again, making sure that they're both going off in the same direction. And then we can take our Marvel Legends blast effects and plug them into the hands. Then the last thing we're going to need to do here is grab a flight stand, and I think that the best way to do this is clamp this onto this thigh piece right here, kind of like that. Here is Iron Man in our final pose, and yeah, it looks stunning. We have him kind of swooping down maybe here, or maybe like dashing forward. It's kind of up to interpretation, but he's blasting at an enemy or, you know, something to that effect. And I'll rotate it around a little bit just so that you can kind of see everything going on here. One of the reasons I love these effects is they kind of like curve in, and I'm not sure if they're really meant to curve in like that, but they do. And I actually really like that because it allows you to do stuff like this, and it kind of implies motion. So obviously we can see the Iron Man's kind of like in a straight line, but because of these effects that we have on here, it kind of implies the motion of like moving down this way. And yeah, I really dig that. All right guys, that's gonna be about it for my how to pose video on the Marvel Legends Extremis Iron Man. I really dig the look of this figure, and again, I've been waiting for this for quite a while now. We were long overdue for an update of this figure, and yeah, this one does not disappoint. I've been having a ton of fun posing this guy around and kind of testing the limits of what he can do. If you want to see more Iron Man content, more how to pose content, etc., hit that like button because it really does help this channel out. And if you haven't subscribed already, I would highly recommend it because subscribing to this channel gives you lifetime virtual access to my collection. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. But with all that said guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.